They call this Ghost Mountain for a reason. Most folks can't handle the silence up here. Me? The silence is the only reason I can sleep. My name is Marcus, 30 years in the Corps, places you've never heard of, doing things you wouldn't want to read about over breakfast. When I got out, the world down there, it was too loud, too crowded, so I bought this cabin. Just me, my rifle, and Duke. Sound of thunder cracking nearby. Duke is more than a dog. He's the only partner I trust to watch my six. He was retired from service the same year I was. Too aggressive for suburban life, they said. Perfect for me. Tonight the weather turned vicious. One of those storms that tries to tear the roof off. I threw another log on the fire, poured a finger of whiskey, and listened to the wind howl. Duke was asleep by the hearth, twitching in his dreams, probably chasing rabbits. Or maybe ghosts. It was a good night to be inside. A good night to be forgotten by the world. Or so I thought. The change happened fast. 1 second, just wind. The next, Duke's head snapped up. He didn't bark. Duke doesn't bark when it's real. A low, vibrating growl started deep in his chest. The fur along his spine stood straight up. He was staring at the front door. "Easy, boy," I murmured, setting my glass down. Probably just a bear trying to get out of the rain. I didn't believe it. A bear smells different. Duke was smelling fear and something else. Gun oil. I stood up, my hand instinctively finding the 1911 at my hip. I moved to the side of the door, away from the fatal funnel. Then a sound over the wind, a desperate pounding, not a knock, a frantic hammering of fists against wood. "Help me, please God, let someone be here." A woman's voice, terrified. I didn't open it right away. Old habits die hard. Trap, distraction. I looked at Duke. He wasn't growling at the voice. He was growling at what was behind it. I cracked the door. The wind ripped it from my hand, slamming it against the wall. A figure fell inside with the rain. She was soaked, freezing, her clothes torn, blood on her forehead. She scrambled backward on the floor, looking up at me, eyes wide with pure terror. "You have to hide me," she gasped, shivering violently. "They're right behind me." "Who?" I asked, pulling her out of the doorway and kicking it shut against the gale. "The cartel," she whispered. I saw something down at the old timber mill. They were moving things, people. They saw me. Cartel, up here. That explained the gun oil Duke smelled. These weren't lost hikers. These were professionals who didn't leave loose ends, and they just followed one right to my doorstep. I moved to the window, the one facing the trail line. Duke was right beside me, pressing his shoulder against my leg. I looked out into the chaos. The rain was coming down in sheets, blurring everything, but then I saw them. 4 flashlights cutting through the dark timber line about 100 yards out, moving tactically, spread out. They weren't rushing, they were sweeping the area. Hunting, they saw the light from my cabin. The flashlight beams converged on my window. They stopped. I could feel their eyes on me through the glass and the rain. They saw an old man in a remote cabin. A soft target, an easy way to clean up a mess. I looked down at Duke. He looked up at me, waiting for the command. I looked back at the lights outside. A cold calm settled over me, a feeling I hadn't felt since Kandahar. "Wrong house, gentlemen," I whispered to the glass. "You picked the absolute wrong house." First rule of engagement: never let the enemy dictate the battlefield. They expected me to cower inside, to barricade the doors and pray. I moved to the utility box in the kitchen. One pull, and the cabin plunged into darkness. The warm glow of the fire was gone, suffocated by the night. Now we were even. "Stay here," I told the girl. "Do not make a sound. If anyone comes through that door who isn't me, you shoot." I pressed a spare snub-nosed revolver into her trembling hands. Then I looked at Duke. Hunt. We slipped out the back door, melting into the storm. The rain was deafening, which was perfect. It masked our footsteps. The cold didn't bother me. It focused me. We circled wide. I could see their flashlights dancing nervously near the front porch. 4 men, heavily armed, amateurs. They were bunched up, shouting over the wind, blinded by their own lights. Duke singled out the straggler, a guy lagging behind the group, checking his phone. Big mistake. I gave the hand signal. Duke launched. He was a shadow within a shadow. No barking, just the wet thud of 80 pounds of muscle hitting a chest, and a stifled scream that was swallowed by the thunder. 1 down, 3 to go. Panic is a contagious disease. When the second man disappeared into the brush without a sound, the remaining 2 started shooting at the trees. Waste of ammo. They were shooting at ghosts. "Show yourself, old man," the leader screamed. He was standing near my porch, waving an assault rifle. I was 10 feet away, hidden in the woodpile. "Drop the weapon," my voice cut through the wind, calm, cold. He spun around, firing blindly. I didn't flinch. I waited for the click. Empty mag. He fumbled to reload, but he was too slow. I stepped into the light, leveling my 1911 at his chest. Duke stepped out from the other side, blood on his muzzle, a low rumble in his throat. The leader froze. He looked at me, then at the beast beside me. He saw the eyes of a man who had made peace with death a long time ago. "You don't know who you're messing with," he stammered, dropping his rifle. "I know exactly who you are," I said, stepping closer. "You're a trespasser. And on this mountain, we have a strict policy for trespassers." I didn't kill him. Death was too easy. I zip-tied him to the railing of my porch, leaving him exposed to the freezing rain. Let him think about his choices until the sheriff arrived. The flashing lights of the sheriff's cruisers painted the wet trees in red and blue. They took the men away. They took the girl too. She hugged me before she left. She tried to hug Duke, but he just watched her, stoic as ever. "You saved my life," she said. "The storm saved you," I replied. "We just kept you company." The convoy drove off, leaving silence in its wake. The sun was trying to break through the grey clouds. The air smelled of wet pine and ozone. I walked back into the cabin. It was cold inside, but it was ours again. I poured a fresh glass of whiskey, breakfast of champions, and filled Duke's bowl with extra beef jerky. We sat on the porch, watching the mist rise from the valley. People think they want excitement. They think they want to be heroes in a story. But out here, we know the truth. Peace is the only prize worth fighting for. Good boy, I whispered, scratching Duke behind the ears. He rested his head on my knee and closed his eyes. The watchman was finally off duty. Until the next storm.